The following program is seen statewide on California Public Television. It was a beautiful drive, just getting there. We started off on Highway 120, then turned onto Evergreen Road for a 15-mile drive, taking us through some of the prettiest countryside I've ever seen. There were forest meadows filled with springtime wildflowers. Lots of trees with the sunlight streaming through. And then suddenly everything opened up and there were big granite rocks. All of this on the way to our destination, a little-known area of Yosemite National Park, an area that is filled with history and spectacular scenery, an area that is definitely one of California's golden parks.
I love you, California. You're the greatest state of all. I love you in the winter, summer, spring, and in the fall.
Okay, we have reached our destination and we have been greeted by a rainbow. And it is a beautiful morning. We are standing here, and our guide for this part of our adventure is Michael Carlin from the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission. And Michael, first off, tell us exactly where we are, because there's a little bit of confusion. There's a dam here that's called the
O'Shaughnessy Dam.
The O'Shaughnessy Dam, and the dam is located where?
In Yosemite National Park in Hetch Hetchy Valley.
Hetch Hetchy Valley. Now, is this Hetch Hetchy out here?
This is Hetch Hetchy Valley behind the dam, and you can see two of the falls coming into the reservoir. The one on the left is Tulalila Falls, and the one on the right is Wampama Falls. Very spectacular, flowing in the spring usually, but this is a very good water year, so they're flowing in the summer as well.
Well, this is interesting because we got the natural falls flowing up here, but we got a lot of water coming out from down here too, and that's part of this story. That is this story. Tell us the story behind this dam and how it got here.
Well, it started in actually 1901 when Mayor Phelan actually filed water rights for the city of San Francisco on the Tuolumne River here in Hetch Hetchy Valley. But it wasn't until passage of the Raker Act in 1913 where the federal government gave us the permission, the right-of-ways, to build this dam and all the other structures within the national park. Construction started in 1914 and water was delivered to San Francisco by 1934.
So wait a minute. Construction started in 1914, but it took 20 years to complete it. So this was a huge project.
This was a huge project. As you can imagine, we're in a wilderness area. There's not many people around. In fact, we had to build a 68-mile railroad into this site to bring all the equipment, men, and other things that we needed to actually build this dam. And we actually started this project. We actually built a dam downstream at Eleanor to build a power plant just to power all the construction work that needed to be done here to build this dam.
Now, when this was built, was it considered a huge engineering project at the time?
It was considered a huge engineering project at the time. In fact, it was built in stages. It was completed in the 20s as the first stage. And what you're seeing now is the completion of the dam that was completed in 1938. Huge undertaking, concrete buttress dam. One of the engineering marvels at the time, and it was engineered an entire system that brings water to San Francisco and the Bay Area, all by gravity from this site.
And at one time there would have been, and boy, I tell you what, when you look out at this dam, it is just amazing to look at it even today. There would have been thousands of men working for 20 years to build this thing.
Yes, there would have been, and they would have been living in the valley. There was a camp in the valley where the rail station actually terminated. You came up through Camp Mather. That was the sawmill for this project. We had another sawmill farther downstream at early intake area. So you can imagine there were thousands of people up here working on this project for years, for decades.
Well, I got to tell you, we've got a lot more to see. But I kind of hate to leave this beautiful dam, the water pouring out, and there's the rainbow right down there. It's just a spectacular way for us to start today's adventure here in Hetch Hetchy. We are on the dam, and I gotta tell you, when you're up here, the first thing you notice is the sound and the energy from all of this water coming off the reservoir. Where is this water going, Michael? Is this going to San Francisco?
This water actually is just spilling right now, and it's just going down the Tuolumne River. It flows down to its final destination in New Don Pedro and perhaps into the San Joaquin River into the bay.
Wow. And this is the reservoir out here.
That's correct.
There are the waterfalls over there. And this is the famous Hetch Hetchy Valley right here.
That's correct. We're now on O'Shaughnessy Dam, named after its chief engineer and architect, Michael Maurice O'Shaughnessy.
Now, are people allowed to come on the dam like we're walking on it now?
Absolutely. This is a thoroughfare that you can take and go into the backcountry and enjoy some of the most pristine wilderness areas in Yosemite National Park.
So wait a minute, hikers walk across the dam, go through that little tunnel over there, and that takes them into the backcountry.
That's correct. And so there's numerous trails, trails that basically, as part of our agreement with the National Park Service, which we maintain, and campgrounds and things of that nature. And you can travel in literally hundreds of square miles of Yosemite National Park from this point.
Wow, now here comes the Yosemite National Park contingent right here. Good morning, I'm Huell Hauser.
Hi, good morning, Huell. Nice to see you.
Your name is?
Ranger Scott Getterman.
Nice to meet you, sir. And
hi, Clarissa Flores.
Nice to meet you. Most people don't realize it, but we're in Yosemite National Park right now, aren't we?
That's right. It's the best kept secret in the park.
It is, because how many people come back here every year?
We get about, well, less than 50,000 people.
Out of the 3.5 million that
right.
visit the park.
Yeah, this is a place to go if people want to get away from the crowds.
All right, now what are we looking at? Is this all part of Yosemite National Park right here? All of these rocks and all of these mountains that we're looking at?
Yes.
Tell us exactly what we're looking at. I think you need to step up here.
Okay, the first waterfall here on the left is Tuililala. And then we've got Wapama Falls. And then Kalana Rock here on the right.
This big rock right here.
Kalana Rock.
Kalana Rock. And it is just spectacular back here. Are people surprised when they come back here and see all of this?
They are. And they just want to keep going.
Yeah. Well, they can.
They can.
Michael said that you can actually hike back in the back country back
Yeah,
through
this
here.
is really the gateway to the back country here. And the nice thing about Hetchy, one of the features that a lot of people don't know, we're at about 3,800 foot elevation. So a lot of our high country that in a wet year like this isn't accessible. So the back country is really accessible in the spring earlier in the year. So it's a great place for people to go and explore the wilderness of Yosemite National Park.
Michael, come on over here a minute, because this is a nice picture here. The National Park Service and the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission together. Who owns what and who has what here in Hetch Hetchy?
Well, the park belongs to all the people. It's the national park. The assets that we're standing on actually belong to San Francisco under agreement with the National Park Service, and we maintain those assets according to the agreements that we have with the Park Service.
So this goes back to that agreement back in 1913.
Exactly. 1913 RACOR Act basically is the agreement under which we work. It involves everything, including the dam, maintenance of the backcountry, water quality, the rangers' presence on our behalf, basically to protect our interests. All that is basically spelled out in the RACOR Act.
All right, now this is the water that's going to San Francisco, right?
This water in the reservoir is going to San Francisco. It's actually being drafted through the dam into a tunnel and being taken downstream through the side of that canyon to our facility at Early Intake, which is about 12 miles downstream. And then it goes into another tunnel, pipelines across the Central Valley, pipelines across the bay, and then it ends up you open your tap in San Francisco or in San Mateo County, Santa Clara County, or Alameda County, water's coming from Hetch Hetchy.
So this was and continues to be a huge engineering feat, getting the water from here all the way to San Francisco. How many miles are we talking about?
About approximately 160 miles, all by gravity.
And where does this water come from? Is that coming from is it all coming from the high country, from snowmelt?
It's all coming from the high country, the high country going back the watershed here up to Tuolumne Meadows, which you probably have heard of.
Yeah.
Some of the water originates there, Mount Lydell, which is the headwaters of the Tuolumne. And all the snowmelt is coming in, and you could see that this is a very big year, a very big water year.
Now, when people come to the dam, when people come to Hetch Hetchy, what can they do? What can they see? Do a lot of people just stay right here on the dam and just take pictures and then turn around and go home?
Some of them do that, but most of our folks go out to Wapama Falls. It's a 2.5 mile hike.
To the big tall ones?
No, the one on the right.
Small ones
the small
right there.
one. There's bridges underneath it, and you can walk right underneath the waterfall.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's a fairly easy hike. It just follows the reservoir.
But you really have to kind of be in the know to know about this place, don't you?
You do.
I mean, the average tourist really doesn't know about Hetch Hetchy.
No, they don't.
Is that a good thing or not?
At times it is. I mean, if you want to get away from the crowds, you come out here and you'll find solitude.
Yeah.
And not enough people do come out here.
Yeah.
So
it is a secret, isn't it?
It is a secret, and it's just an area. Yosemite National Park is so huge, and as we've discussed, most people think of it as just Yosemite Valley, but to come out here to Hetch Hetchy and to know from here in the northwestern part of the park all the way down to the giant sequoias in the southern end of the park, Yosemite National Park is just a huge ecosystem and protects so much beautiful land and so many features for the American people, and this is really an area, probably the least known feature of the park.
How big is Hetch Hetchy, the valley?
The valley actually goes back about 8 or 9 miles, and the surface of the water as you see it today covers about 1,800 acres, and that's the size of the reservoir.
And it's all a reservoir. It's not a lake.
It's a
You
reservoir.
can't come here and water ski. You can't come here and bathe in the reservoir waters.
You would violation of federal law. You cannot do that. It's here for your pleasure, your aesthetic pleasure to look at. You know, water does have that calming effect on people. And as the Park Service has stated, the solitude of just this area is just magnificent.
Good morning, fellas.
Good morning.
We're hiking across Hetch Hetchy Dam. Now, is this a regular hike for you?
Once a year.
Really?
For 2 years.
You hike across the dam?
Yeah, all the way to Wapama Falls.
So you're going to the falls?
Yeah, gonna get wet today. Looks like a lot of vapor.
Yeah, because they're running a little heavy this year, aren't they?
Much heavier. Much
How
heavier.
did you find out about this place?
We live about an hour away, Groveland.
Uh-huh.
And we retired up here and started hiking. So Art and I, you've been here a lot.
Several times. I was here last week. It was raining.
Yeah, because you know this is a little off the beaten track, isn't it?
Well, slightly, but it's part of Yosemite Park, you know.
Yeah, see, he knows his part.
Yeah.
Well, have fun.
All right,
Have a good day. All right, they're hiking across the dam. What's on the schedule for the day?
Go see the waterfalls. There's great runoff this spring, and want to see that.
Had
Taking
you
the
ever
family.
been on Hetch Hetchy Dam before?
Never.
What do you think about
I
this
like
thing?
it. It's beautiful.
Did you see the rainbow coming?
Yeah, we were out here last night watching the stars. Wow. It was beautiful.
And you're gonna hike over here, right?
Yeah.
That's about a 2.5 mile hike.
I got my stick.
What are you looking at over here?
Just how beautiful it is.
Yeah.
Completely beautiful.
This is a spectacular view out here. Have you ever been here before?
No, it's my first time.
What got you here?
Some friends brought me.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You're from?
England, but I live in the Bay Area.
Boy, this really shows it to you up here looking down, doesn't it?
Absolutely. We got valves open. We're water's going through the dam. As we say, we're trying to balance the reservoir right now.
And we're looking down that body of water right down at the bottom of the canyon there. That's the Tuolumne River.
Absolutely. That's the main stem of the Tuolumne River. It flows all the way down into New Don Pedro and then down into the San Joaquin River.
And what are we looking at off in the distance, these mountains off in the distance? I mean, this is the kind of the area that the river just winds its way through, right?
Exactly. I mean, this is the natural geology that's been cut by the river and glaciers over centuries, and you're just seeing the natural progression. The river's still down cutting a bit, but you know, we won't see it in our lifetime, but over years you'll see just more and more of this.
It'll make a deeper canyon.
Absolutely. And you can see the canyon basically right here is the same, looks the same as the canyon above the reservoir. So this is the flat area where the glacier actually kind of came to rest.
There are no bad views of this dam, and I think we found my favorite view looking over this side from this angle. But Clarissa, it's also interesting looking back here at this, what do you call that, a peak or just a big rock, or what is this called?
Kalana Rock.
Kalana Rock. And how did it get the name Kalana?
It was a name that was given to it by the Native Americans.
Who were here long before the people from San Francisco were building that dam.
Absolutely, and most of the names of the features in this valley are Native American names, including Hetch Hetchy Valley.
All right, so, Hetch Hetchy is an Indian name as well.
That's correct.
What does that mean?
It translates something where the grass was, the wind in the grass, you know, the sound it would make.
So we really don't know, do we?
We have several versions. The other version, it's the name of an edible grass that grew in the valley.
But we really don't know.
That's right.
All right, the thing we do know is that we're standing here in front of this tunnel. And that's what we wanted to go through because, Michael, this tunnel had a very practical use when it was built, didn't it?
That's correct. This tunnel basically gave us access to the other side of the lake or reservoir, so we can actually move equipment to build the backside of the dam. Also, this was an access road that once went over to Lake Eleanor, where we actually built our first dam and powerhouse as part of this project.
So this had a very practical use when this dam was being constructed.
Absolutely. We drove equipment through here, if you can imagine
boy,
that.
you can feel the cold air. You're beginning to hear the echoes back in here. We're going to walk through the tunnel. Does the tunnel have a name?
Not that I know of. We can name it after you.
The California's Gold Tunnel. We're walking through it right now. This is a historical experience in itself. Boy, walking through here, you really get the sense of what a big engineering project this was, because they literally just blasted their way through this mountain, didn't they?
Absolutely, and you get a sense of, before a lot of modern equipment, there were hammer drills. You know, there was a lot of blasting that took place, and 1,000 laborers basically working on this project for decades.
Now we're walking through big puddles of water here. Is this water just seeping through the rock?
Yes, this is just seepage, and again, it tells you how big of a water year it is that we actually have this much water inside the tunnel.
And you know, for the hikers, for the people who come here, I think just getting through the tunnel is part of the experience, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Just walking through here and getting the feel of the place.
Right, not knowing what's at the end of the tunnel is great.
What is at the end of the tunnel?
Hundreds of miles of trails. You can get up to Lake Tahoe if you wanted to from here.
Really?
You can hike across the Sierras to Bridgeport.
Or you can just stand there and walk back the other direction.
That's right.
All right, there's definitely light at the end of the tunnel. And I think this is just part of the lore. They probably never realized when they were building the tunnel that that it would maintain its own sense of place and adventure this many years later.
I agree with you on that, and basically what I view this tunnel as now is basically this is the gateway to the backcountry of Yosemite National Park.
Oh, look. Oh, here's a point right down here. So this is, oh, look at this. Wow. Now this is another view of the reservoir right here.
That's correct. We're looking at the reservoir. We've crossed over the dam through the tunnel, looking at Tuliolala and Wampama Falls again. But you get a sense of the breadth of the reservoir as it makes the turn around Kalana Rock towards the headwaters.
Yeah, there's all kind of other layers of beauty back there.
Absolutely. You can see there's another waterfall back behind those rocks called Rancheria, and of course then basically you end up at the headwaters where the Tuolumne River is flowing into the reservoir.
Boy, and suddenly you feel even more isolated when you're here just because you've come through the tunnel.
It's the peacefulness of the reservoir and of Hetch Hetchy Valley. You really do get the feeling that you're in the wilderness, and you can look up at the granite walls and the waterfalls, and it really is reminiscent of Yosemite Valley, and just kind of you feel the spirituality and just the beauty, and it's just a gorgeous place.
What is deceiving about this whole experience is that when you look out here at the reservoir, Clarissa, this is kind of deceiving, because how deep is this valley actually?
Well, it's 362 feet deep is the reservoir.
Below, there's 362 feet of valley below the reservoir.
That's correct.
So Scott, this really, you know, a lot of people say that this valley is as beautiful as Yosemite Valley. I was thinking it's not as beautiful as Yosemite Valley, but it just might be, because we're just seeing the top.
Exactly, Huell. And when you think about it, it's hard to imagine, but if you think about the reservoir without the water being there, and you think about the granite walls, the waterfalls, Wapama Fall, for example, would flow down almost another 400 feet. So you'd have the sheer granite walls, and you've got the glacially formed valley. So when you look at it that way and imagine it without the water, you can see how it's very similar in formation to Yosemite Valley and holds a lot of the beauty that people know Yosemite Valley for.
It is literally like a second Yosemite Valley.
It is. It's a little smaller, but it's very similar. The granite's the same, the waterfalls are the same, the High Sierra, and it really is a beautiful, beautiful place.
So how tall do you think this cliff is right here that we're seeing from the water up? Is that 400 feet?
Well, yeah, approximately.
So it's another exact length of what we're seeing here below the water.
Exactly, and that's what you have to imagine. The waterfalls, Wapama is a good example that comes down to the reservoir level. It would go all the way down, so you'd have a waterfall that may look like a Bridal Veil Fall or a vernal fall or a fall in Yosemite Valley. It's just, of course, doesn't fall as far because of the reservoir has basically filled the valley with water.
So right down here, 400 feet down, is a valley floor. Just like Yosemite Valley.
Exactly, is a valley floor, and the glaciers came through here, formed it, so it's the same formation, the same type of granite, the same waterfalls, and so really, in a lot of senses, geologically speaking, it is the same as Yosemite Valley.
Okay, now we're in for a treat, because with a little effort, anybody can hike to these waterfalls up through the back country, but we have now hooked up with Mike Fong, who is the watershed, what is that title again?
Watershed Keeper Supervisor.
Watershed Keeper's Supervisor here on the reservoir. And Mike, this is amazing. This is kind of unusual for us to be allowed out on the reservoir, because this is not open for boat traffic under normal circumstances, is it?
No, that's correct.
All right, well now tell us what you do in a normal day, if there is such a thing, here on the reservoir.
Well, right now we're at peak inflows with our runoff season, so we're doing a lot of valve adjustment and balancing the reservoir. We do a lot of water quality, checking the reservoir with luminology with our biologist, and ensuring that we have pristine water for our customers down in the Bay Area.
And do you have visitors, scientists coming here from all over the world to study Hetch Hetchy, to look at the water and see how things are doing out here?
There's definitely a growing interest. We work quite a bit with the National Park Service and the USGS, U.S. Geological Service. So yes, we do have a lot of interest out in this area.
And what's in the water itself? Are there fish in here?
There's fish. There's a pretty good population of trout that live here in Hetch Hetchy Reservoir.
And can we fish for those fish?
Fishing is allowed inside the park here from the banks. There is no private use on the water other than the Park Service and Hetch Hetchy.
And what about the animals? Do you see animals coming down to take advantage of all this water in some way or shape or form?
Yeah, there's quite a few animals that make this their home. We have a lot of bears. We have peregrine falcons, eagles, coyotes, raccoons. It's become a pretty popular spot with the backpackers. This is really a pristine area for the backpackers because this really is a head trail to a lot of the park that isn't hit as hard as the valley floor.
Yeah.
So
they're hiking right up along the crest here to reach these waterfalls, right?
Yeah, there is a trail that zigzags back and forth up here that gets you on top. It'll take you out and around to the top of Lake Vernon is where these falls originate, where Wapama Falls and Tuiulala Falls actually come from. And then the trail also splits and runs right along this top of this granite here on the tree line, and it'll take you back to Till Valley, Rancheria, and eventually, if you're up for it, you can hike all the way into White Wolf.
How far back does this go? If we wanted to just stay on the reservoir, how far back does this water take us, weaving back through all these rocks?
Our reservoir is approximately 8 miles long up to the headwaters of the Tuolumne River.
So we're just seeing the tip of the reservoir here, aren't we?
That's correct.
Does it get real narrow back in here?
Yes, this is one of the widest spots. It gets maybe to about half mile, 3/4 of a mile wide, and then narrows down very quickly into the canyon there.
Yeah. Now, where are we going? Are we going to go over here and look at the waterfalls? Or are we going to go down through the canyons? Where are you? We're kind of at your mercy because you're driving the boat, and we're here at your invitation.
Yeah, we'll come over here and we'll take a look at Wapama Falls. This is a view that, unless you're a backpacker, not a whole lot of people from the parking lot or the dam get this view around the corner here of the very top of Wapama.
How close in can we get over here?
Well, I can get you wet.
Oh man, this is spectacular. Look at this. 2 waterfalls here and this amazing sheer granite cliff.
Sheer granite wall here in Yosemite National Park.
Okay, there's the little footbridge at the bottom of the falls where campers can hike. And Scott, that's got to be a high point of a hiking trip. We don't see any out there now, but boy, you're getting really up close and personal with that waterfall.
Exactly, and the experience to be able to see the water and to get wet and go down, it's just spectacular. In fact, these footbridges here, in 1997 we had a huge flood. It actually washed away the wooden footbridge we see here on the left, and they've been replaced. And I think it looks great that they're just part of the environment for people to be able to come out here and hike out. And it's a easy hike, a pretty flat hike along the reservoir, and to be able to see a waterfall like this is just spectacular.
And Michael, looking at all of this water pouring off this cliff here, I guess you call it a cliff. I'm not sure what the word is for it. It's a mountain. It must make your heart beat fast because a lot of this water is going to your customers in San Francisco.
Absolutely. It's beautiful. It's pure water. It's coming off this gorgeous granite face. And it's flowing very hard right now in late June, and it's just spectacular, don't you think?
Now, this is snowmelt.
Absolutely.
This is all snowmelt.
Absolutely. This is snowmelt coming from the high country, and it's still coming in today. As you saw at the face of the dam, we're trying to balance the reservoir out.
It looks so clean, doesn't it?
It
looks like you wouldn't even have to purify it very much. It's just coming right out of the snow.
Well, absolutely. And one of the things is this water source basically is unfiltered when it's served to San Francisco, so it doesn't go through a treatment plant. We basically disinfect it and serve it to you. It's that pure.
Okay, we've spotted some hikers. They're coming right up on the main old wooden part of that bridge. Look at that. Oh my gosh.
They're getting wet. They're getting wet, let me tell you right now.
Yeah, but they're having fun.
Oh, it's a great experience. And look, they're enjoying it. There's not that many people around, and it's spectacular.
Now, do you think the workers, when they were building this dam, back almost 100 years ago, 80, 90 years ago, would have enjoyed these waterfalls the same way? They would have had to.
I'm sure they did. They were living on the valley floor at that time, actually building the dam, and I'm sure living through the winters. They worked all year round, so they were here all 4 seasons, and it probably was spectacular in the spring, very hot in the summer, and very cold in the winter.
Boy, that is beautiful. That whole base of the falls where the water is running down and cascading over these rocks at the very bottom, just as it hits the reservoir, that's as beautiful a sight as I think I've ever seen.
It's absolutely gorgeous how it spreads out, and just the sheer mass of water coming down. It's truly spectacular.
Look at it, panning up there. Tilt up there, Cameron, and get a look. Oh, gosh.
That is gushing. It's really gushing.
Are you used to hearing this kind of reaction?
I am not. I'm just in awe. It's just unbelievable. And all the times I've been up here, I've never seen the falls going like this. To look at the granite walls, the blue sky, the beautiful water, it's just a spectacular day, and I'm just beside myself. It's just overpowering.
And that's coming from a ranger.
That's right.
That's supposed to be jaded.
Yeah. No, I'm not jaded. On a day like today, to look at the falls, these are the days that
You're glad you're a ranger.
I'm glad I'm a ranger. I'm very thankful I'm a ranger, and it's a lot of fun.
And these are the days that I'm glad I'm alive. Look at this. Oh, boy. Mike is maneuvering the boat very carefully because you wanted to bring us in close. Look up here just to see the sheerness and the height. It's very deceiving from a distance, isn't it, Mike?
Yes, it is.
I mean, yeah, I don't even know how high are these things?
Approximately a little over 1,000 feet.
Really?
Yeah, and again, we always have to remember that we're on the water and it's bringing us up, but we're here right against the sheer granite walls.
So wait a minute, this is 1,000 feet right here.
Just from this point, from the top of the
this point up.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow, and you've already told us about how the glaciers came through here, but look, you can really see how it just sliced this rock in half. These are just sheer walls here. And when you don't really appreciate them until you get up this close to them.
Exactly, sheer walls of granite and the evidence of the glaciers, but it's absolutely beautiful, and it gives us a whole different perspective to look straight up and to see the sheer walls.
And this is interesting, Scott, because I know intellectually that this is not coastline. It looks like a natural coastline going down the side of a beautiful alpine lake. But actually what we're seeing is the side of a mountain, halfway up the mountain, sticking into the water.
Exactly. It's really the valley. It's Hetch Hetchy Valley, and we're seeing filled with water the side of it, and it does look similar to a coastline, to an alpine lake.
This looks totally natural right here. When you look out here.
It is natural in the sense.
Yeah, but it's natural halfway up the side of a mountain.
Yeah, it is natural.
There's 400 feet below it.
Exactly.
So right now, we are right in the heart of Hetch Hetchy Valley. We are in one of the deepest parts of the valley, one of the sheerest drop-offs from these cliffs and these mountains if this water weren't here.
Exactly, and not only are we in the heart of it, we're in the widest part of the reservoir, in the widest part of the valley, and basically we're right about in the middle of it, and as it goes down, the Tuolumne River goes down, but we're seeing the widest part of the reservoir and looking at some of the beautiful shoreline and some of the ponderosa pine trees, the black oak trees. It's just absolutely gorgeous.
Here are waterfalls over here. So all of this, if we had been here 100 years ago, we would have been looking up at all of this instead of straight out at all of this.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay, now it's time to go back in time a little bit, Michael, and talk a little bit about the, this is what you were waiting on, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
The history of Hetch Hetchy and of this reservoir and of this dam that we have seen today, because from the very beginning, it has been controversial, to say the least, in those early days.
Yes, it was shrouded in controversy. John Muir and the Sierra Club opposed the damming of Hetch Hetchy.
Now, why did they oppose it?
Well, they felt that basically the beauty of the valley should be preserved and that it was akin to Yosemite Valley. So it was very close to them. There was also other opponents to it. Originally, the irrigation districts downstream were opposed to us building this reservoir, but we sort of prevailed over time, and we prevailed with the federal government to get the Raker Act through, and we have the reservoir today. But the controversy is still there today.
Yeah, I mean, this dates back to the early days of the Sierra Club and to this. I mean, this was one of the early environmental struggles, wasn't it? Battles. I mean, this was a watershed moment, pardon the pun, but it really was a huge national controversy, not just a California controversy.
That's correct, and a lot of the controversy and a lot of the opinion that was being formed was not here in California, but it was back east. There were a lot of eastern newspapers that were picking up the story. In fact, the New York Times ran an editorial in the 1910s about San Francisco's ambition to build a reservoir here.
For it or against it?
Against it, and they actually reran that same editorial recently, and it still kind of resonates with those people that want to see the valley restored. Even though they've never seen it or never been here, it's just the idea that a city such as San Francisco could build a reservoir in a national park and take their water from that national park just kind of rubs against most people's grain.
And Scott, wasn't this something that John Muir, people say it almost killed John Muir because he lost this battle. He fought so hard.
John Muir did lose the battle, and he fought hard to prevent the filling of Hetch Hetchy, and it really galvanized the modern environmental movement. As Michael said, it was fought hard and there was a lot of opposition, and John Muir certainly was very disappointed in the outcome, but the politics of the day prevailed, and the city was authorized to build the dam and reservoir.
Now, Muir was basically saying that Hetch Hetchy Valley is as beautiful as Yosemite Valley. Was that his point?
Yeah, that exactly was his point, and he came up and he saw the waterfalls and the evidence of the glaciation and the granite walls, and likened Hetch Hetchy, although smaller, to Yosemite Valley, and he thought that it was certainly worth saving.
So would Muir have been standing somewhere 400 feet down at one point in his life, looking up at these walls and urging people not to build the dam?
Yes, and he didn't spend a lot of time up here, but he certainly was up here, and he explored. John Muir explored the whole park, and really loved the Hetch Hetchy area, and felt that Hetch Hetchy was worthy of saving, but he lost his battle.
Okay, we are back on O'Shaughnessy Dam, and we are here for another chapter in the Hetch Hetchy story. We are standing with Ron Good, who's the executive director of Restore Hetch Hetchy. Let's talk just for a minute about John Muir, because we all know John Muir, who was one of the leaders in the early environmental movement, who was the president and the founder of the Sierra Club. John Muir loved this part of California, the Yosemite part of California. What did John Muir call the Hetch Hetchy Valley, this part of Yosemite Valley, before it had been filled in with this reservoir?
Well, you're exactly right, Huell. John Muir loved Yosemite National Park, and he called Hetch Hetchy Valley a wonderfully exact counterpart of Yosemite Valley. He said Hetch Hetchy is a grand landscape garden, one of nature's rarest and most precious mountain temples. A grand landscape garden, one of nature's rarest and most precious mountain temples. He's just so enthusiastic about this place. Two wonderful waterfalls here you see. One's called Tuilala, and he said that is the most graceful waterfall I've ever seen in my whole life. It exceeds Bridal Veil Fall and Yosemite Valley in height, beauty, and behavior. And the other major waterfall is Wapama Fall, mighty Wapama Fall, and Muir said it roars and pounds and thunders like an earthquake avalanche. Roars and pounds and thunders like an earthquake avalanche. What a great description.
So John Muir spent a lot of time right out here on this valley floor, which is 400 feet down.
Yeah, and one of the things John Muir said, imagine yourself in Hetch Hetchy Valley on a sunny day in June, standing waist deep in grass and flowers, as I have often stood while the great pines swayed dreamily with scarcely perceptible motion. And here we are on a sunny day in June at Hetch Hetchy.
All right, and what did John Muir have to say about the good old O'Shaughnessy Dam?
Well, fortunately for John Muir, he never saw the O'Shaughnessy Dam, but during the great debate, this debate went on through 3 presidential administrations about what to do with Hetch Hetchy Valley. Through Theodore Roosevelt, Muir met with Theodore Roosevelt in Yosemite Valley and camped out with him, and it snowed overnight, and 4 inches of snow fell on the party, Muir and Roosevelt. And Roosevelt woke up and said, "This is bully," And then they went to the Mariposa Grove of giant sequoias, and so this debate went through Theodore Roosevelt administration, William Howard Taft administration, and finally Woodrow Wilson. President Woodrow Wilson was elected. The Republican Party had been split. Roosevelt formed the Bull Moose Party, split the Republican Party, and in waltzed President Woodrow Wilson, and brought with him Franklin Lane, the former city attorney for the city of San Francisco, who became the Interior Secretary for the United States.
And that's when the dam got built, because he was able to get it through then.
The big debate really kind of coalesced then, and Wilson came in office in March 1913. By December, the Raker Act bill had been signed into law. But this great debate went on through 3 presidential administrations, and John Muir called this the damnable dam.
Wait a minute, say that again.
John Muir called this proposal a damnable dam. So he really did not want this to happen. He loved Yosemite, he loved Hetch Hetchy, and also the Sierra Club was very rational about it, passionate but rational. They proposed 10 or so other places to put a dam outside the national park. I think it gets to the question, why do we have our national parks? Well, we have them so people can enjoy nature on its own terms and not be confronted with commercial activities in the national park.
Like a big dam.
Like a big dam. Why do we have our national parks? It's so people can go to a different place mentally and a different place physically to enjoy nature on its own terms. And that's what Muir was all about.
A lot of people say losing the fight over Hetch Hetchy killed John Muir, that he died of a broken heart.
Well, certainly there's some truth to that. He was very distressed over the whole debate that went on for many, many years. And he was 75, 76 years old and spent a lot of time trying to preserve Hetch Hetchy. So
now, he never saw this dam actually built, did he?
No, that's right. He died Christmas Eve, 1914.
But after the battle had been lost to build the dam,
that's right.
He just never saw the dam actually. It was probably a good thing he never saw it here.
I think so, from his perspective, yeah. The law was signed December 19th, 1913. He died a little over a year later.
Now, the other irony is that Mr. O'Shaughnessy, who built the dam and for whom the dam is named, he also never saw the water from this project ever reach San Francisco. He died before the project was finished as well.
That's right. Just a few months or just before that. That's right. So there's some irony there, certainly.
A lot of irony. And when we talk about this place, which has always been a beautiful place, it's always been involved in some sort of controversy, and it's kind of an ongoing thing, and that's where Restore Hetch Hetchy, your organization, comes into play, because the latest chapter is, what are the goals of Restore Hetch Hetchy?
Well, interestingly enough, John Muir is still spiritually helping us out. Governor Schwarzenegger just designated John Muir's image to be on the state quarter for California. And so he's still with us in spirit, certainly. And our organization has a win-win approach, just like what happened at Mono Lake. After many years of public education, Los Angeles was taking water from the tributaries that go into Mono Lake. And after many years, the Mono Lake Committee was successful in getting a win-win outcome, a win for Los Angeles and a win for Mono Lake. So we have the exact same philosophy with Restore Hetch Hetchy. We want a win for the Yosemite National Park's Hetch Hetchy Valley and a win for the San Francisco Bay Area water and power users in the irrigation districts.
Now, what does that involve? Because this is where it gets a little tricky and a little interesting, very interesting, because you have an extremely ambitious proposal for for what we're looking at right out here today from this dam.
Well, fortunately, when the dam is gone and the water, reservoir water, is just held in a different place, we're not talking about destroying the water. We're just talking about letting the water go from the O'Shaughnessy Reservoir down to another holding place, the Big Don Pedro Reservoir, for example, or the new expanded Calaveras Reservoir in Alameda County.
Now, wait a minute. You said when the dam is gone.
Yeah.
This is the first that we've heard you want to do away with this dam.
Exactly right. Because this is in Yosemite National Park, after all, and gets back to the reason why we have our national parks. People come to the parks to go to a different place mentally and a different place physically.
All right, but wait a minute. You can't just take down a dam, can you?
Well, our engineering team has got it all figured out. You know, we can bring in crushing machines, and actually we can recycle the concrete. We can resell it for home building and road building and highway building. So, and we can make about $9 million off of the sale of the and also we can, as Don Hodel, President Reagan's Interior Secretary, has proposed, we could sell little chunks of the dam to the tourists at the Iwani Hotel.
But what would happen to all this water?
Well, the law of gravity will still be in effect without the O'Shaughnessy Dam. Water will still flow downhill into the Big Don Pedro Reservoir or the expanded Calaveras Reservoir or groundwater storage. So fortunately, not one drop of water is going to be lost.
And under your theory, the people of San Francisco will still have all the drinking water they need.
Absolutely.
Because this was built as a reservoir for drinking water in San Francisco and other counties.
That's right, and our plan, again, is a win-win opportunity. Not one drop of water is going to be lost. In fact, we're proposing, as is environmental defense, that the water be filtered to make it cleaner than what it is right now.
Well, now, how practical is this? Well, number one, let's walk over here because this shows us, yeah, we can get a good view of the river. This is the way the whole river would look again, like this, below the dam, the river that we see in the canyon down there.
Exactly right. You know, Huell, I have had the privilege of backpacking down the Grand Canyon of the Tuolumne River 4 times, and it's a really wonderful, alive, living river with waterfalls and cascades and little swimming holes. It's a beautiful place. So I've backpacked down this whole canyon 4 times.
So the river we see over here would be the river that would go through this canyon, and this water would be completely gone, and the original canyon, the Hetch Hetchy Valley, would reappear.
It certainly will. It is so wonderful. The scientists, the naturalists say within 2 years the place will sprout out, the herbaceous plants will come back, and the bears, the birds, the coyotes will all drop seeds and it'll sprout out very quickly.
Realistically speaking, how practical is it to take down a dam this size and literally drain this valley back to the way it was before? I think a lot of people watching this, even though they're sympathetic to the concept, are scratching their heads and saying, how do you do this in a practical sense? How do you take a whole dam down? How do you get the political will that it would take to make a decision like this?
Well, you know, we're so fortunate, Huell, to live in a wonderful country where people can participate in governmental decisions. You know, we have our First Amendment freedoms to participate in decisions at the local level of government, the state level, and the federal level of government. And that's what people are doing already. People are interacting with officials in San Francisco. The governor of California is now on board the train. He's looking at the possibility of restoring Hetch Hetchy, and of course, the federal government will be involved too. And again, we are good citizens of America, and we're so fortunate to live in a country where we can participate in these decisions.
This is a big idea.
Well, you know,
I mean, maybe it's just that we're afraid in America of big ideas.
What?
But I guess if we could build the dam, we could take the dam down.
That's right. This was done by humans, and it can be undone by humans.
So we would be standing right here looking, well, I mean, the dam wouldn't be here, but we would, right down here would be the river that we just saw on the other side of the dam.
Exactly right.
With that canyon still down there, and 300 to 400 feet more of land beneath this water, so it would just be one continuous sweep all up through the canyon.
That's exactly right. It's a beautiful canyon, like John Muir called it, a grand landscape garden, one of nature's rarest and most precious mountain temples. It'll have ponderosa pine trees, incense cedar trees, black oak trees, and beautiful wildflowers and meadows, and the American people will be able to enjoy this place again.
And it'll be a valley once again.
Absolutely, it certainly will.
They are hiking up the trail by the Hetch Hetchy Reservoir. Good afternoon. How are you all doing?
Pretty good.
Where are you all from?
San Francisco.
Oh, good coincidence.
Yeah.
Because let's stand right over here.
Okay.
This is your drinking water right over here.
Oh, yeah. Yep, that's it.
Now, what do you know about this proposal to possibly drain this reservoir? What do you feel about it? This is your water out here, your drinking water.
I know. I've read about it, and I have kind of mixed feelings. You know, obviously, we have great drinking water in San Francisco because of this. But also, from what I understand, this valley, Hetch Hetchy Valley, rivaled Yosemite in beauty. And you could sort of see the top half of it, and God, that's beautiful, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think if there's a way to maintain the water supply, I think it'd be a great idea. Actually.
Have you given much thought to it? Have you talked about it with any of your friends and neighbors in San Francisco?
Yeah, I think a lot in the neighborhood I live in, a lot of people are in favor of, you know, draining it.
Really?
Right. You know.
But you're still kind of, because there's probably some unanswered questions.
Yeah, part of it. I'm not a native Californian either, so for me, you know, I don't have the history. So.
Yeah.
But you know, if we can maintain the water supply, and that would be. It'd be a beautiful thing to have it back.
To have it back.
Right.
Well, enjoy your day. What are you going to do? Just hike around the...
Yeah, we're going to go over to the falls.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, have a wonderful day.
Oh, yeah, we appreciate it.
Have a great day.
Yeah.
Have a great day, fellas.
Thanks.
They're hiking around the reservoir, and we've got the guy just happens to be standing right here who can answer some of those questions that fella had. Mark, you're with Restore Hetch Hetchy, and your whole expertise is restoration. You heard what the fella said here.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of questions out there among the general public. My question to you would be, what's it like down there right now with the water in the reservoir?
Well, right now there's a lot of dirt, rocks. There's no vegetation, obviously. It's under 400 feet of water, but there's also some remnants of dam construction. There's railroad tracks, there's trails, some roads, and there's approximately one or two quarries in the valley floor
that they used to build the dam.
They used to build the dam.
Now,
That's
what
correct.
about the soil itself? Is it just mud down there? Has the mud all washed away? Or there's a lot of sediments down there?
It's all there. The mud, the soil that was there when they filled the valley with water is still there in this same condition it was. Imagine the topography, the landform that was there is pretty much matches what it was there when they filled it. Luckily, the watershed is all granite. So for our sake, for restoration, this is a good thing because there's very little erosion in the upper edge of the watershed.
So really, if you would drain this, you're just going to see an extenuation of these granite walls.
Exactly.
And what else would we see? Is this the way the side of the valley would have looked before it was filled in? And what would it look like? You know, what eventually would it look like again? Would it look the same way?
Well, it would look very much the same over time. A lot of the vegetation we're looking at right here, you'd see in the valley floor. Some of these, we're in next to a shadier area with some of this is a big leaf maple here and some chaparral. So you'd see some of this on the south side of the valley where it got a lot more shade. Much of the valley, based on the historic photos we've looked at, was meadows and wetlands. And there was black oak woodlands, black oak savanna, open woodlands. There was coniferous forest there. All of those things could be restored, I believe, successfully over time. The meadows and the grasslands, I believe, would be restored within several years of dam removal and the draining of the water. There's obviously some concerns with that related to non-native species coming in and invading, so we're looking at all the ways to try and prevent that. To grow the forest, it would take 100 years to grow a 100-year-old tree. So over time,
100 years really isn't anything, is it?
No, it's not. And so that's one of the perspectives I have on this is over time. I've got two daughters. I'm looking at it for their future, And
yeah, this is a huge project, though, to do something like this.
It's huge, but in fact, there's the scale. The valley floor itself is approximately 1,300 to 1,400 acres. And there's projects on that scale that are under restoration right now in areas such as the Sacramento Valley. Now, they're not as complex as this because they're looking at, say, a single or several habitat types, whereas this is very complex because there are a number of streams flowing through, so there's a number of different habitat types. But all of those habitat types are being successfully restored elsewhere right now, as we speak, across the United States.
Would there be a bathtub ring around the valley once it was drained?
Yes, there would, and that's the one thing that would remain for maybe 75 to 100 years after, is a reminder of what was a mistake in my mind.
Yeah, well, it's definitely be a reminder of history.
That's true.
Of when the dam was here.
That's true.
But other than that, we would literally be standing right here looking another 400 feet down into a valley filled with meadows and trees and wildflowers and animals and the river flowing right through the middle of it, right?
That's true. You would have mature forests, you would have wide open meadows and wetlands. There'd be streamside vegetation, there'd be willows, cottonwoods, black cottonwoods, alders along the stream. The slopes, the talus slopes, which are the rock on the broken rock along the base of the slopes, would have chaparral growing on them. And so the only remnant you'd see is the bathtub ring. And even that over time would go away because of the lichen. The rocks have to get stained, and they've been bleached out over time by the water. So the rocks would have to grow, the lichen would grow back on the rocks would get weathered again, and eventually that would disappear too.
So 200 years from now, let's just go up to 200 years from now, would they ever know that a dam was ever here?
If you were walking through the valley floor 200 years from now, it'd be incredible. It'd be, I'm sure, as John Muir described it when he was here 100 years ago.
Most people think when dams are built, they stay built.
Well, you know, Huell, this was done by humans, and it can be undone by humans. And dams are really coming down all across the United States. U.S. Senator John Warner, Republican from Virginia, stood with a sledgehammer in his hand on the Rappahannock, near the Rappahannock River, talking about taking out a dam off the Rappahannock. Former Interior Secretary Bruce Babbitt with a sledgehammer in his hand down in Southern California, helping to take out a dam down there.
So dams are coming down. That's not a sacrilege anymore to take down a dam.
Well, I think people are taking a look at rivers in a different way. There was an era of dam building, and they provided a useful purpose at that time, but now we're revisiting how wild, scenic, incredibly living rivers can benefit all of us Americans.
Without the dam.
That's exactly right. And you know, with the population growing in California, we need another place like Yosemite Valley. Imagine the opportunity we have to allow nature to recreate another Yosemite Valley.
Right here.
Right here in Yosemite National Park.
So there you have it. A look at one of our state's most beautiful, historic, and controversial bodies of water. And it's an ongoing story, too. The O'Shaughnessy Dam and Hetch Hetchy Reservoir, part of Yosemite National Park, and definitely one of California's golden parks. Well, I sure hope you enjoyed our Hetch Hetchy adventure. And if you'd like to go on this adventure again, all you have to do is call 1-800-266-5727, and we'll be glad to send it to you right away.